Welcome to the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of September 19, 2021. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves are happening in the sky now. And of course, the very big move, the star of the show, is going to be the full moon that takes place early this week. On Monday, we are going to have a full moon in the sign of Pisces. Now, this full moon is happening quite close in the sky to Neptune and speaking in harmony with Pluto as well. And what that suggests is an overall dreamy quality. In fact, I would say an intensity to the dreamy quality right about now. But remember, the energy of Pisces is one that invites us to understand karmic connections, karmic ties, but also what it means to create space for the new and the next to find us. It has to do with understanding the blessings that sometimes karmic closures can bring. And so I would invite you to consider those times in your life when something has come to an end and it felt like a miracle, or it felt like a gift from the universe of some kind. That maybe it was a watershed moment of some kind. There might have been actual tears as part of it, but you knew that this was a good thing that was happening. That the freedom of a particular person, place, thing, or situation would allow you the space that you need to fill that space with something exciting and amazing and wonderful, even if you didn't know what that thing was just yet. Normally, full moons, as part of their characteristic, represent things coming to fruition, a sense of culmination, a sense of understanding what it is now that wants to come to the surface as part of either transforming or changing or coming to a close in some way. And then you add to it the energy of Pisces. You add to it Neptune, god of the seas, helping us to wash away what no longer works for us. And the intensity of Pluto, the transformative quality of Pluto, a harmonious Pluto energy at that. Well, it does suggest that in one way or another, all of us are going to feel changed as a result of this full moon. Now, this energy to me also speaks to the symbolism of baptism. And so the rite of baptism is called something different depending on the spiritual tradition, but just about every tradition has some type of ritual that symbolizes leaving behind or cleansing oneself of the past as part of embracing the new, as part of becoming something else or becoming something new. And so for many spiritual traditions, that includes water, the cleansing properties of water. Yes, it could be an actual baptism in terms of a very rare occurrence in one's life where you may change your spiritual tradition. But some spiritual traditions incorporate elements of rituals with water as symbolic of cleansing one of the past, in some cases routinely, whether it's a daily ritual, whether it is an annual ritual. There's this understanding of the spiritual quality and the spiritually cleansing quality that water can represent. And so whether it is literal water, whether it is your own tears, whether it is figuratively, right? All of us in at least one way may find ourselves feeling different, feeling new, feeling ready to embrace the next because of what we are cleansing ourselves of, whether that is a spiritual cleansing or emotional cleansing. The wonderful thing about this energy as well is that it allows us to shift our energy in some way. And so again, going back to this idea of closures that you are grateful for, I would invite you to also consider those times when it was hard to let go of the past, right? Something you knew was already over. Maybe it's been over for a long time. Perhaps a relationship that was hard to let go of. But then we have this moment when we find that there's a shift of energy that takes place where we know that now we're ready for something new. We're ready for the next. And that can be a time of transition. And for some people, that transition time can be rather extended, right? Depending on you and your chart or the nature of the bond. Sometimes that transitory time, that time of transition, can speak to maybe a year going by before you're really ready to be open to the new or the next, or multiple years. Sometimes it's a matter of weeks or days. But there tends to be a moment, or there can be a moment, when we feel something change within us, where we know that energetically we've put the past behind us. Energetically, we've let someone go. And normally when we have that moment, it feels like lightness. It feels like very quickly we're able to open ourselves to what could be, even if we don't know what that is just yet. What love could be available to us, romantic love or spiritual love, or love for ourselves. We may not know what that looks like just yet, but we know that we are more open to it than we were before, simply by feeling that shift of energy take place within us. And so I do think with this very powerful full moon energy, all of us may find in at least one area of life that something changes, something shifts, where we know that even if we don't know what good is up ahead, we know that we're more open to it. And that openness in and of itself allows us to align more fully with the blessing or the miracle that could be right around the corner. Now, this week also represents an important moment as part of the larger Mercury retrograde season. It is going to be this week that Mercury is slowing right down to a standstill, early next week going retrograde. And so it becomes very important to pay attention to what is happening in your life right now. Not only simply because of what Mercury is doing and the fact that it is going to be, as we navigate forward, especially as we get to the end of October, beginning of November. What takes place at that time? Well, we do have Halloween, we do have Dia de Muertos. So we have all these celebrations coming up that happen right around that time to honor the ancestors. But outside of that, we are also going to have Mercury at that time direct, returning to where he is this week. And so on the one hand, what takes place this week may in some way look very different once we navigate further. But what's also very important is that this is where Mercury begins to make important alignments with big power players. And these alignments are going to characterize this Mercury retrograde season. And so it is over the course of Monday to Wednesday that Mercury will align in supreme harmony with Jupiter, but also speak in a conversation of tension with Pluto. And so Mercury is just holding tight with these conversations, as I said, early next week going retrograde, but in the first days of October is going to repeat these alignments. So basically, it is Mercury staying within orb over this week and next week as well, staying within orb of these particular connections, which means we'll continue this dance. It is Mercury in the sign of Libra that has to do with understanding other people, our one-on-one alliances with others. And of course, this can speak to business partnerships, professional alliances, but a lot of us out there are going to experience this in the context of love. Now, whether that is an established partnership, whether that is the love that was, or understanding where you are in love and why. On the one hand, there's an energy here of optimism, of belief, of hope, which is a beautiful thing. But it can also be energy that isn't always grounded. That's the trine of Jupiter. And then we have that energy of Pluto. And the energy of Pluto squaring Mercury is going to encourage us to do the work that change requires, to do the work that we may need to do to move towards the type of partnerships that we want in our lives. Now, sometimes that transformation means going in a different direction. Sometimes that transformation means working within a particular dynamic to improve it and working on ourselves to align with what we believe we want love to be. So also with this though, I just see this energy as encouraging us to get along with others and being excited about the prospect, but also being challenged by the prospect as well. Now, if it was just Pluto squaring Mercury, I would say, oh my goodness, things could be unfair, words could feel biting in some way. But because we've got that Jupiter trine, I do feel that this energy of this week, and that we're going to experience next week as well, and the week after that also, as Mercury stations, as Mercury goes retrograde next week. What I think that this represents is the call to do the work, to understand where it is that we desire transformation, and to understand our own perspectives and where it is that our emotions may be coloring, or our past wounds may be coloring what we are understanding or perceiving. This is an invitation to redefine what partnerships are going to be, especially healthy partnerships, and to understand that sometimes to allow great things into our lives, we have to get along with others. And not everybody's easy to get along with. They may have very good intentions, you as well, but sometimes energies don't always mesh the way that we would ideally like. And regardless of that, it really is okay. There are ways in which to be encouraging and supportive and loving, but also to own our own responses and our own reactions, to strive to understand, to do the work that understanding sometimes asks us to do. Now, what I'm especially encouraged by, though, with this energy is that it is going to move us in a direction of more rewarding partnerships. It is a journey. Remember, we are right now right in Mercury retrograde season. Mercury is stationary this week. Mercury is retrograde next week. So we are in the thick of it, if you will. And yet, the opportunity is to dig deeper, and to dig deeper within ourselves, to understand what healthy relationships look like for us, and to understand what work may be required, whether that's our own internal work or in our lives or within our bonds, to get us and to move us in that direction. Relationships can be scary. It is sometimes scary to trust other people, especially when it is that there has been an abuse of that trust, or a sense of that trust being taken for granted, or that trust hurting us in some way in the past. And this can go way back. I mean, if we saw some of these issues of trust and mistrust playing out when we were children, and the people around us and the partnerships they had, the adults in our lives, well, it can be that much harder for us to understand how to embrace trust. But I do think that the real key here is, and this is something that I spoke of recently with a client that I had. I was speaking of how when it is that you can trust yourself, you can trust yourself, it becomes a lot easier to trust another. When you know that whatever may happen with another person, you can trust that you will be okay, whatever might happen with another. It becomes that much easier to be vulnerable, to be open, and to understand that we become vulnerable to others, not just because we feel or they make us feel safe, but because we gain something by opening ourselves up. We gain something by being vulnerable to another. And what we gain is the possibility of true acceptance by another person. We gain the potential to be seen deeply and still be loved, still be accepted, and to know that we are okay. Now, being willing to take this stance is also an act of bravery. And the bravery isn't something that is always rewarded. Very often, our most brave moments are deeply personal, are deeply private. They involve confronting ourselves, looking at the things within ourselves that maybe we can't accept, and yet finding some peace within it. And we accelerate that journey and that process when we are willing to share, when we're willing to share with another. And I do think that, yes, Mercury square Pluto, that sense of being exposed may be very strong in our one-on-one alliances, but the blessings are there and the hope is there that real healing can occur. Now, the healing also, you own that. We alone are responsible for our own healing, and yet we also have the power to heal many, many others, especially when we take responsibility for our own healing. And that includes whatever healing may need to happen that allows us to love more fully, that allows us to see ourselves reflected in the eyes of others, and allows us to then like what we see, to see the very best in ourselves and in others. That is the very definition of hope, believing in each other and believing in yourself. And sometimes there are inner barriers or very old messages or lies that you believed about yourself that stand in the way of truly allowing openness and sharing, truly allowing hope to enter. And yet we have moments sometimes. Sometimes those moments are an instant, and sometimes those moments are a journey, a process. And sometimes that process takes weeks or longer. But I do believe that a part of moving towards greater love and greater wisdom is that some part of us inside believes that we will get there. And we certainly can. And I would say that we will. Now, speaking of changes that can happen in an instant, let's talk about something else really big happening this week. And that is Venus standing across the sky from Uranus. This is an annual event, so it is somewhat rare for this aspect to take place. And it represents, on the one hand, a light bulb moment, especially in matters of heart, for some, perhaps in matters of money as well, but it has to do with desire and what we think of as love, what we think of as pleasure, what it means to love others, what it means to love ourselves, and seeing either ourselves or our past or our behavior very differently in a split second. All of us in at least one way or another are going to feel like we didn't realize it, and all of a sudden the realization turns a light on, where we didn't even know that perhaps we were sitting in a dark room in terms of our awareness as to where we were in matters of love, in matters of trust. This is Venus in the sign of Scorpio, after all. What the truth of our desires actually is, what the truth of what it means to love ourselves actually is. Self-love is a part of what Venus represents as well. And what we value. Now, one very powerful way to consider what you value is to look at what you give your energy to. I spoke recently about what we give our mind energy to, right? What we think about. That says a lot. What we meditate on says a lot about what we value, what our higher power is. But another way is to look at what we spend our money on. That is going to say a lot as well. And it's not the literal thing in terms of what we value, but what that thing symbolizes. There's this whole school of philosophy that examines the thing versus the symbolism of the thing. And it's this idea that objects, right, or even if we look at symbols, but objects are not relevant or important in and of themselves. It is what they are alluding to. It is what they are pointing to, or what emotion they evoke within us that gives them meaning. And when you look at what you're spending your money on, right, what you're acquiring with your money, that could be, things or services or giving, receiving. When we look at this, it speaks volumes to what we value. Now, here's the interesting thing. Venus will oppose Uranus on Thursday. And on Saturday, Mars will trine Saturn. And these energies playing out right around the same time to me is especially intriguing because yes, there may be that light bulb moment. Things feel like they're moving very quickly. Awareness comes very quickly, but we also find our power and we make choices that help to fuel and strengthen self-respect. And we're able to make those choices rather naturally. Keep in mind that Mars and Venus right now are in what astrologers call mutual reception. And what that means is they are hosting each other's ruling planets. So Mars is the ancient ruling planet of Scorpio, right now in the sign of Libra. And Venus is the ruling planet of Libra, right now in the sign of Scorpio. So you can see that there's this connection playing out between these planets, between these signs, right about now that is especially strong. And even though, yes, Venus opposite Uranus, not the easiest energy, right? Not necessarily energy we always look forward to, because it's an energy of truth, but it's a sudden truth. It's a truth that can feel like it's shaken us in some way. It heightens our awareness. And yet truth is necessary, right? Truth is liberating. Truth is a beautiful thing, because it allows us to be more truthfully ourselves, more authentically ourselves. The energy of Scorpio already is especially interested in authenticity. But the fact that almost simultaneously, as Venus stands across Uranus, Mars, much more slower moving than Venus, is beginning to align with precision with Saturn. And Mars aligning with Saturn here, I think, is a very fortunate alignment to take place. It is Saturn that represents the long term. It represents an awareness of our sacrifices and what's worth sacrificing for. I've spoken before about how Saturn to me represents delayed gratification. This understanding that if we are willing to put in the time and to put in the work, and yes, sometimes time and work can also represent sacrifice as well, we can make an even bigger gain in the fullness of time. And it is Mars that allows us to direct our very powerful will, our very powerful energy. Mars trine Saturn brings with it a tremendous reserve of power. It brings with it focus, and it brings with it a sometimes seemingly quiet determination to succeed, however it is that you define succeeding for yourself. Whatever goals you believe are worth sacrificing for, this is where we're really able to find a tremendous amount of inner power, inner commitment to see that goal through to fruition. This isn't necessarily an energy of fruition in and of itself, although the full moon can represent fruition in powerful ways, but it is an energy of staying the course, of being honest with yourself, of seeing the benefits of understanding where your loyalties and where your responsibilities and where your obligations actually lie and where they don't, importantly, where they don't, and making choices of clarity from that place as well. Now, this can be an especially powerful energy that I am really excited about because it fuels self-respect, but it's self-respect fueled by our own actions, by walking our talk, by being willing to understand that our energy is valuable and that we have that ability as human beings to harness our will and to move in the direction that we desire. And even if we don't get there right away, or even if we don't get there today, we are worth the work that meaningful change requires sometimes, and we are worth putting in that time to realize success and achievement of our own definition, meaningful to us. What I love about this week for us, well, look, there's a lot here. It's a powerful and meaningful astrological time. I am especially excited about this moment. I feel like there is so much potential here, not only because, of course, of Mars trine Saturn. I think that is a great gift, but also the full moon, of course. The full moon is going to be karmically cleansing. But remember, the whole point of karmic closures and karmic cleansing is so that we can live more fully in this life now It invites us to be open to the experience and the full emotions that life can bring, and to know that feeling things is part of what allows us to live more fully. Sometimes you really do get to pack in several lifetimes into one. I am very much of the belief that we are older souls than ever before. And this is why it is more and more common to see in more and more places people going through dramatically different phases in their life, and that we're able to do that. There was a time when you were born, and when you were born, you knew that you were going to have the same job that your parents did. You knew very early on whom it is that you were going to marry. Sometimes you had a choice in the matter, sometimes you didn't. But a lot of things were kind of laid out for us, and they were always going to stay that way throughout our lifetime. And what used to take us 100 lifetimes to understand or maybe resolve some karma between your soul and another, now it can take years, a few years, 2 years, 4 years, 10 years. And that's a very powerful thing to consider. As we are now older souls than ever before, as we are now packing in more lifetimes into one than ever before, that will necessitate the need for karmic closure, karmic change, so that we can, in some way, in at least one area of life, begin again. And beginning again is very powerful. The promise of reinvention, the promise of rebirth is right there on the surface for a lot of us right about now. And it is going to be this full moon that may bring a sense of transformation, a sense of cleansing through water, whether that's literal water, whether that's the tears that we shed. Allow that watershed moment, because ultimately that is part of what is cleansing us of some past definition that we no longer need. Because we truly are moving into a bright and bold future. And for some, that future is going to come on very suddenly with Venus opposite Uranus. And when it comes, embrace it, because there's something more honest here. There's something more real. And what's real is also authentic, a more authentic version of you. Well, thank you so much for watching. Let me very quickly remember to say happy birthday to all the Libras out there. On Wednesday, the sun will move into the sign of Libra, and I look forward to talking about this month-long transit every step of the way as we go along. But yes, happy birthday to the Libras out there. And what do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys. And to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs ups. All of it means so very much to me. Thank you. And if you want to know how all these very powerful transits this week speak to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com with choose your membership rate. For as low as just $3 a month, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for just $3 a month. Now, higher tiers get you things like class passes to future Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Link is in the description below. Synchronicity University has some incredible events coming up with choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class. Rachel Schwartz teaching Kabbalah astrology, a 5-part class for as low as just $5 a class. If you can believe it, we are going to have the one and only Rachel Schwartz teaching us an introduction to Kabbalah astrology and understanding so much from a Kabbalistic perspective, including parenting, relationships, current events, world events, and so much more. I hope that you will join us. There are just a few days left to choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class with the one and only Rachel Schwartz. And you can sign up now at synchronicityuniversity.com. Synchronicity University back to school autumn session with me is going to begin in a couple of weeks as well, just 2 weeks from the time that this week begins. And so choose your tuition rate is on for just a little while longer, as low as just $5 a class to take classes with me throughout the autumn season. And we are going to have truly some incredible classes. We're going to have a lot of classes, or a bunch of classes, on the midheaven in the astrology chart, understanding destiny and legacy and success and career. We're going to have more on the 9th house, hello world, more on the 5th house, which has to do with luck and love and windfalls. We are going to have a class on how to write horoscopes. And so you'll be getting practical techniques to help you to understand how to write horoscopes or present horoscopes in videoscope format. And we are also going to have a class on power couples, Pallas Athena. We're going to be looking at Pallas Athena, a very popular asteroid. So there's lots to look forward to, as low as just $5 a class for just a little over a week left. And so you can log on right now at synchronicityuniversity.com with choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class. Recordings are included. We're going to have a lot of fun. You get to hear personal stories if you're into that. And we really do enjoy ourselves every Saturday afternoon. And so, again, if you can join us Saturday afternoon Eastern time, that's amazing. If you can't, that's okay, because you get the recording to learn from infinitely. So again, synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. And I truly look forward to seeing you in class this autumn for the back to school autumn session at Synchronicity University. The Canadian Astrology Conference at astrologyconference.ca is just a week away, if you can believe it. It is right around the corner. The keynote speaker is going to be the one and only living legend, Demetra George, and I will be speaking on Alan Leo. So that's going to be a really fun and lively class. You can join us if you're American and you're paying in USD. You get a discount because of the exchange rate, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Brilliant astrologers are going to be joining us. I feel very privileged, very grateful to be included among them. And so astrologyconference.ca, join us for the Canadian Astrology Conference. Link is in the description below. And finally, you can get my take on your unique birth chart by checking out my partnership with Cosmogram. Link is in the description below. At Cosmogram, you can enter your birth data, and within hours, you will get a PDF of your chart along with my interpretation of the different planetary aspects. If you go onto the Cosmogram website, you can even see a sample report so you know exactly what it is that you're going to get. And I hope that you love it. I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you so much to everybody who's already purchased this. So again, check out my partnership with Cosmogram. Link is in the description below. And thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. I truly am so grateful for your trust. Thank you to everybody who signed up for the incredible conference event. It's the first conference event that I've ever been involved with my school, Synchronicity University. So it really has been so exciting. I'm recording this just before the conference begins. And so I really am feeling butterflies and excitement and so much happiness. Thank you. And of course, for all your trust and your love and for being a part of my spiritual journey, truly so grateful for it as well. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.